Hey, it's Rebecca, and you're listening to Resilient by Design. So, guys, today I interview Maia Roffey, and she is the principal designer, founder, owner, all the things of Black Sheep Interior Design here in Toronto. This conversation is all about money and working with and finding the right trades. What I like about the conversation that May and I had, and in fact, we've actually had many conversations in person previously, which is why I brought her onto the podcast, is that she shares exactly what she does. Like, she's not trying to hide anything. She's all about collaboration. And if you stay through right to the end, she really talks about the importance of sharing and building community as a designer and trying to shed this old world designer mentality that we have to keep our sources private and hidden from everyone else. We have to keep things closed tight. So I really like that about her. She's very open. She shares with us specifically how she creates budgets for projects and when she presents them to her client. She talks about her billing process and how she's broken down her every project into phases. She gives some specific examples of wording, which I like. I think I'm going to take it and use it in my own contract, but a revisions clause wording and how to make sure that the client, basically isn't dragging you around. We also talk about finding and aligning yourself with the right trades. This is something that I know many designers struggle with. I have struggled with it. I'm still struggling with it. Just when I think I've found this unicorn contractor, something goes awry. So she has some really great tips on how she has worked really hard, actually, to build and foster those relationships. And then at the very end, she gives some good nuggets of wisdom. And like, spoiler alert, it's about time blocking. You guys know I like good time blocking. Anyhow, I think you are really going to enjoy this conversation with Maia Roffey. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you as tired as I am working in a bubble? I mean, shoot. It's time to maybe socially distance with other people. That is why I love coming to the Collective Workspace. If you are someone who is looking for a little bit of stimulation, a lot of beauty, the Collective Workspace is a really great place to go. It is a co-working space for designers, architects, and builders in Toronto, and they're opening a second location this spring. They have flex workspace and offices starting at $120 a month. There's boardrooms, a podcast booth, which is where I am right now, concierge storage, and a trade-only design library. You can find out more, or if you want to book a tour, go to thecollectiveto.com.
Hey, Maya. I don't know why I do that. It's Maia.
Everybody knows Amaya. They have us outnumbered at like 100 to 1. I am the only Maia I know who spells my name this way.
Well, I like how you spell it, and I think it's creative and unique. It's Maia. I know you probably didn't come up with the name, but it's a lovely name.
Yeah, I can't take a lot of credit. And in all honesty, I think my parents just misread the pronunciation in a baby book in the 1980s. So be it. Here we are. And I like it. I prefer Maia to Maya. Apologies to all the Mayas out there, but yeah.
Okay. So Maia, can you just tell everyone who's listening, who doesn't know who you are, a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Maia Roffey. I own Black Sheep Interior Design. We do a blend of residential and commercial, but heavily residential. We're based in Toronto, but we have projects all over the place. I got projects in the Caribbean. I've done projects in the US. We're starting to branch into Collingwood and cottage country, which I'm really excited about. A few years ago, I actually, with my business coach, made a statement about like, what I really want to do is just residential properties. I just want to do, sorry, not residential, vacation properties in like the residential context. I just want to do vacation properties. And I feel like it's starting to filter in that way. There's something about like that second space that's where you go and relax. Anyway, sorry, tangent.
I just add to that I love that because I too love vacation properties. And if I could just do cottages and country homes all day long, I would be so happy. So I am with you on that.
It also means that you can like, you work on the project and the client isn't necessarily there every day. Do you know what I mean? Where they're not constantly like showing up and like, what's going on here? What's happening here? It's like, just relax. It's fine. It's going to be okay.
So true. So true. Oh my God.
Yeah. So Black Sheep is going to be, I think 8 this summer. I started in 2013. Prior to that, I worked at a couple of residential firms, probably the highlight being working for Linda Reeves on one of the last Princess Margaret lottery home in Oakville that she did. I was the lead design on that. And that was, I mean, if you ever want to take a crash course on can you run your own design firm, try to build a luxury multi-million-dollar house in 6 months. I learned so much in that period of time. It was amazing. Anyway, so I had actually started in commercial. Always thought I'd want to do commercial. I was like, I never want to take someone shopping for a sofa. I never want to have meetings on the weekends and the evenings. And here I am in residential, and it's a great fit for us. So.
Well, you don't have to do meetings on the weekends in residential.
I do not do meetings on the weekends. I should say, just in case anyone's like, oh, I have to do meetings. You do not have to do meetings on the weekends. And I only keep 2 nights a week where I will do meetings for like people with businesses. You know, there are a lot of other people who like, they've got their jobs, they've got kids. I get it. So I keep Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. Right now, I shift my schedule every few months to sort of see if a different fit works for me. So right now, Tuesday and Thursday evenings are when I'm available for a meeting with clients, but like it has to start by 6 at the latest. You know, like I will not meet with you at 8 p.m. because that's when your kids go to bed. Sorry. That's when I go to bed.
I mean, honestly, that sounds like a nightmare because like between 6 and 8 is like the craziest time in my house. I would never want to have a meeting with anyone at that time.
Well, then you're probably going to meet with her during the day, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I do not meet clients in the evenings or the weekends. Absolutely never, no exceptions. But that's part of, I think, being a parent is you sort of have to, it wasn't until I had kids that I decided to really just draw that line because I had to.
Yeah, that's totally a lifestyle difference between you and me. Like I don't have kids. And so I'm cool with keeping those open because I actually don't love it when my days are full of meetings because then I feel like I'm not as productive. Like I like big blocks of time to chip away at stuff and like have a distracting thought and explore a thing. And I feel like moving some of the meetings into the evenings frees me up a little bit more to have those. But that's, yeah.
Okay, so I really wanted to have you on the podcast. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. You've done lots of public appearances, television. I'm sorry if you guys can hear rolling behind me. I'm in my office and someone is rolling something down the hall behind me. Can you hear it? Oh my God, it's so
like a little bit of a rumble, but I don't think it's going to come across that much.
Usually I'm recording at the Collective, but now we're in this stay-at-home order. So here I am at the office. So apologies about the sound. So what I love also about you, like so many things, you just seem to have a really dialed in way of working with your clients and understanding their budget, guiding them through. In the conversations we've had, I mean, I already have started to adapt something that I learned from you, which I think was just in a passing conversation we had, like, I don't know, last year.
I think it was the Christmas party here.
Design docs. Yeah, it was at the Collective. We both used design docs and I was kind of complaining. I was like, oh, I'm getting frustrated. And you told me that now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you told me that you created you had a budget project template in design docs with like absolutely everything you would ever need in a house. give or take, and budgeted amounts. And when you start a new project, you just copy that template so that all you need to do is like take things away, add what's missing, so you can quickly come up with a budget. Is that right?
So that's not quite right. That it's making me feel like it should be right, but no,
that's what I'm starting to do.
Yeah.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, what we do is we have like a template. I think it's like 100 Project Street, Townsville, Canada. Like and that's the template. That 100 Project Street is our imaginary project in everything. So in our folders on the server, like when you're going to set up a project, there's already, you copy Project Street, you move it over, and it's already got all of the template documents for everything that we possibly do. So it's got all the CAD, title blocks, line weights, blah, blah, blah. But it's also got, templates for if we're going to like a window schedule when we go and do a site measure. And you just print out the window schedule and you number the windows on the plan. And then you can put all the information about the window and take photos and anyway, blah, blah, blah. So in Design Docs, 100 Project Street basically has all the imaginary rooms in a house and all of the imaginary things that we find in those rooms. And so, but they don't have prices assigned to them. Then what happens is when we're going to start, so we do our projects the same way pretty much everybody does. We do concept, design development, and then execution. And in the concept phase, when we're putting together our concept and we have the concept presentation with the clients at the end, that's got mood boards, key elevations, hand sketches, all that kind of stuff. They also get a drafted budget for what I think the interiors are going to be. So it doesn't include any construction or labor costs. And it doesn't include a few things that we get our contractors to supply. So, drywall, also like paneling, which we'll talk about, something fun I'm doing today. It doesn't include paneling or like pot lights, that kind of stuff, but anything else, tile, hardwood, furniture, plumbing, electrical, sconces, pendants, all that kind of stuff. And I go through and I assign each of those things a number. So if it's a pendant for the hallway, I have an idea of, based on the conversations we've had with the clients, where I think, what I think their snack bracket on things is going to be. So, I mean, obviously, for any single project, I could find you a $10,000 pendant, but that's probably not appropriate for 99.9% of the projects.
Gladly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any day you have that amount of money. Fantastic. Let's chat. But, I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, so given the look that they're going for and the projects that we've worked on in the past that they've said, oh, I really liked such and such on your website, I will allocate, I think that they're going to spend $2,000 or $1,500 or $1,200, and I just pop those numbers in for things like plumbing fixtures and lighting. Mm-hmm. But for things where there's a quantity aspect to them, so like flooring, tiling, all that kind of stuff, we actually, when we're developing our concept presentation, we measure out those areas and we say, okay, so they're going to need 350 square feet of backsplash. And I know that they want a marble mosaic. So we'll actually go in and put in 250 square feet. Was it 350? I don't remember. Whatever the quantity was. And then I put in an amount that I think is a healthy budget amount for a marble backsplash. So $35 a square foot. Those numbers just come from experience, from being out there and knowing, I know how much a marble mosaic is going to cost. And we'll just pop all that stuff in. And so it produces a budget before we've even specified anything. And then when I go shopping, I take that per square foot allowance with me and I go, okay, so I really like these options. So I'll pull the following things. And then we know that we're staying roughly within the budget that the clients have sort of approved. But they can also say, that this feels too high. And so sometimes I'll actually highlight on the PDF in gray, like these are the areas where if you want to bring the budget down, we can adjust expectations in the following areas.
So, okay, let's just break this down for a second because it's such a simple thing. And yet I did not do this for so many freaking years. And I struggled as a result. And so I think for people listening, this might be that like aha moment, because I know when I had this conversation with you and you were telling me like just the idea that you are tackling the budget before you even start to source is freaking brilliant. And I now am doing the same thing where we have a concept and budget review. Now, it doesn't sound like ours is as intensive. We don't have elevations, but we have furniture plans, layouts, and we do have the budget itemized like that. I think it's so amazing that you're doing this. Question, do you talk about budget at any point prior to this review? Like when you first meet them in a consultation, do you give them ideas? Like if someone says to you, well, we don't really know what it's going to cost. What do you do in those situations?
Oh, okay. So I will ask people if they know what their budget is. But if people ask me if I know what their budget is prior to that concept meeting, I will tell them no. I will happily tell people how much I think my design fees are going to be to get us from day one of having shaken hands, we're going to work together, to the budget presentation. I will happily tell you roughly what I think that process is going to come in at so that you have a sense of what to expect. But that preliminary investigation is how I get to being able to tell you, I think that your project is going to cost X. And it actually says in our contract with people, like phase 1 is concept, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a little italics thing at the end that says, while we will not have construction drawings at this phase, I don't remember exactly what it says, but our concept package is sufficient for contractors to provide ballpark pricing. So the idea is that at the end of the concept phase, the combination of my package, our contract for design fees, and your contractor taking a look at the design package and just giving you an estimate, you should have a fairly reasonable understanding of what the project's going to cost. We also put a little thing at the end that says we recommend that our clients retain a 10% contingency of the overall budget. So if it all comes together and it's going to cost you $200,000, you had better be comfortable spending $220,000 because shit happens. Because we open up, we're doing it right now. We opened up the back of, a client's house, took all the drywall down and discovered we're going to have to rebuild a set of stairs because they're terrible. It happens, these things come along. And sometimes it's not a scary thing. It's I just found this most amazing thing, Maia. Do you think we can put it in the principal ensuite? And it's like, I mean, sure, it's going to cost more, but if you want to have this exquisite bathtub that is like hand carved out of marble, as opposed to, the very nice acrylic one that I budgeted for, that's cool. But
I want your clients. Where do you find them?
Tragically, no. So some of these examples are completely made up. And
$10,000.
Someday someone will ask me for a marble carved bathtub, and I know where to get it.
So you heard it here first, guys. If you're looking to hire someone who knows how to get that,
I am ready for you.
Maia's your girl. Oh my gosh. Okay. I love that because, so good. So good. Okay. So many questions going through my brain.
Go for it. Anything.
So would you, cause I think some designers spend a lot of time, I know I've done it in the past, pulling this itemized budget together before the clients hire them. They sort of say, here's my design fee proposal, and here's what we think it'll cost to, like, let's say, furnish your home. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that is ridiculous. You wouldn't hire a financial planner, but not pay them. Like a financial planner would not say, okay, sure. Why don't you send me all of your finances? I'll take a look at them. I'll put together my entire scope of work. And then you can decide whether or not you're going to what? No, my expertise, like the number crunching, the budgetary stuff. If you just want to hire me to pick paint colors and make pretty things, then that's fine. But I'm not doing budgeting for you. That is a part of our services. And so you hire me and then you get my services. I'm not spitballing what a project is going to cost for you without it. Now, I will say, when I've had clients in the past who have looked at buying a property, for instance, this project you and I were just chatting about before, they were looking at buying it, and it was a substantial, obvious, it was a property in Rosedale, and it was it was a lot to buy, and we all knew a lot of work had to go into it. But these are long-standing clients of mine who I've been working with literally since before I went out on my own. They have been my clients. So we have a long-standing relationship, and I knew that, putting some work towards it was going to be fine. But also I was working for them on other things at the time. So we just accumulated those hours of sort of spitballing, what do we think is going to need to happen? Who's going to provide what would those rough budget numbers be? That was all paid for. And it was just part of them exploring whether the property made sense. And at the end of the conversation, they decided not to buy the property. And then COVID hit, pricing changed, people's expectations changed. The people who owned the house felt more inclined to let go of it and go live in Barbados. Fabulous choice. And so they ended up buying the property, but that was like 6 to 9 months after we had done that initial exploration. So if I had not charged for that, I would have put I put a solid day and a half to 2 days of work into going to site, talking with contractors, putting together my numbers in order for these people to, in Toronto, you can substantially increase your net worth by investing in real estate. So they would have made money off of the experience, but I wouldn't have. And they would have made a lot of money and I would have made none at all. Well, that's not fair. Mm-hmm. So, I frequently, when I feel like I'm being a jerk, I'm like, but I don't own property in the city of Toronto. And you do. So no, you're going to pay me.
No, I don't think you're being a jerk at all. I think that's a really important message for designers, is that you have to value your worth. You have to value your time and your expertise, and you have to get paid for what you do. And I know as creatives, it's challenging. Sometimes we don't see what we do as work because we enjoy it. And so sometimes we'll put in extra time and not bill for it. But I like that message. And that's why I've hesitated. I've been on this fence every once in a while where I think, oh man, so many people come to me. They have no idea what things cost. They have a completely unrealistic expectation of a renovation or whatnot. And so I do toy with this idea in my mind of what if I showed them a past budget, or what if I gave them an example? Because if it's the wrong fit, let's figure it out now.
I have absolutely done that. I've said, if you want, it's not the same scope, but I'll take names and addresses and all that jazz off of a previous budget of something roughly similar, and I'll email that to you. And if you feel that that's outlandish, and it's amazing because people then look at it and they're like, okay, yeah, I agree. That's what a chair costs. That's what these things make sense. And then they look at the bottom line and they're like, so I get hesitation. I mean, I live my life as a consumer as well. You work hard for your money and you want to get value for it in exchange. I understand wanting to be informed, but if you being informed means me doing a ton of legwork, then yeah, you're going to pay for that. That's going to be a service I'm going to provide to you. And if at the end of that service you say, I'm sorry, I just don't think we can work with you, that's fair. Yeah, I also build into my budget that, honestly, at any point in time, either party can say, I just don't know that this is the right fit for us, given budget, given personality, even whatever. And there are, terms and conditions for how to end a contract. So when people are really nervous, I point out to them, I'm like, guys, just because you hire me does not mean we have to build the house. We can stop at the end of the concept phase, and you can then evaluate and see if you want to move forwards with this project, or you want to scale it back significantly, or you want to wait 3 years and, save up a little bit more and do it. This is our forever home. We want to do it right. We want to do it the way we want to. We'll also have discussions about phasing stuff out. There are things I think you can phase out and things I think you shouldn't.
Wow. Okay. So, okay. That's a lot.
Sorry.
No, it's a lot of good. It's a lot of good things. I just want to circle back and highlight that. And this is why I love doing things in phases. And I'm like, I really like how you're doing this. Maybe I should change my process. But okay, hold on. Don't speak. Let me speak. I've got to say this. I love how, and our phased approach is similar in the sense that you can do one phase and not progress to phase 2 with us. You can do phase 2 and then take everything we've designed and you can find a contractor, you can purchase, you can implement, you can do it yourself. So there is that opportunity.
You're going to sign a really good liability release if you hand stuff off. If you've specified and other people are building it, there's going to be a really nice document in there.
Okay. I haven't yet done that though. But that's good to know. It's good to think about.
To do that.
I haven't had anyone do that. I have had people after phase 2 say, you know what, we're just not going to move forward because we decided, or we're going to move houses or whatever. But I like the idea that, because oftentimes, especially if it's a new build house, and this is what I've been struggling with, is more and more people are coming to us now looking to buy a new home and they want to know how to work with us. And my experience has we have done new builds, but my experience has mostly been in construction and renovations. It has renovations, like full gut jobs, but not necessarily building from scratch. Right. So I love that idea of, you can do the concept, you can work with them to get that far. And then from there, it's like baby steps. And I'm curious, is that how do you bill hourly or do you bill fixed fee? And do you tell them the price per phase or for the whole enchilada?
We bill hourly. At some point in time, I do want to move us away from that. But right now, this is always the funny thing when clients are like, "Can we do it for a fixed fee?" And I'm like, "Okay, but I just told you that the concept phase is going to be $8,500. So and that's my guess. So that's fine. We can do it for a fixed fee. It's going to be $11,000." And they're like, "Why can't it be $8,500?" I'm like, because I have to protect myself if it goes over $8,500. That's why I bill hourly. It always blows my mind when people are like, "Can we do it for a fixed fee?" Thinking that somehow you're going to get it at the amount I've guessed it at or less. I'm like, you get that anyone who's prepared to offer you fixed fee has a cushion built in. And in all likelihood, you're not getting the hours you're paying for in fixed fee. Do you know what I mean? Like, people are going to tell you $11,000 when they think it's going to be $8,500, because what happens if, you open the house up and you find you have to replace the staircase, and now you got to figure out, do we want to do a straight run or do we want to have a landing? What's that going to do to the layout? Now I have to replan the basement.
And that's why, to be honest with you, we do a flat fee for the design. And the reason, and the design for us, we control all of our hours. The client is not involved in that. Once we move into the implementation, it's a scalable, it's a different way of calculating the fee, because there's too many unknowns. It's too hard to anticipate and predict how much time it's going to take. So you're right. When you do offer a fixed fee, the person offering that fixed fee has to control the parameters and the involvement. And we try to minimize the client's involvement, because the only thing I can control is my time and my team's time. I can't control the client and how many times they may or may not need me. Well, actually I can, by laying it out the way we do. So you're right. A fixed fee, I think sometimes people think they're going to get a good deal. And then you have to be very wary of that type of person, because if they want a fixed fee, it's because they're going to probably try and take advantage and get squeeze more out of you, unless you're building in that buffer. So good for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the other thing, is you have to protect yourself against scope creep, right? Because it's inevitable that you're working on something and they're like, "Would you mind just kind of like popping in and we're thinking about replacing the kitchen backsplash. Like, would that be and half an hour later, you're still discussing the pros and cons of, well, do you want to change the countertop in the future? Because if so, let's do that now before we put the backsplash in. Well, why? Well, because the backsplash sits on top. Oh, okay. Well, what if I wanted to? And it's like, I'm now
totally. I've been there
at night on my Tuesday, and I'm working for free. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's something I will tell you we still battle with. Like, I just had a client in the past few years go through this with us. And it was like, while we were there, and then she would just email us a couple selections and said, because they had decided not to go with us for the furniture. They sort of used our guide. That was fine. That's fine. They will pay us for the work we do. But then it was like, quick, a link in an email. What do you think about this chair from Crate and Barrel? What about this? And send me I saw this at the consignment store. And then when we'd be on site, it would be kind of like ambush. of, hey, just while you're here. And at that point, I had let it go too far that even though my contract says we need to bill hourly for those additional things, at that point, I hadn't built. So it was like, now I'm that asshole who's like, sorry, I gave you all this time for free. So what I did do is I had my team send an email saying, oh, we'd love to send you our out of scope contract if you'd like us to help you with these selections. And that put an end to it. And the client was like, oh, no, that's okay. Right. So she was really just trying to pull out from us as much as she could for free. And unless you're like a hard-nosed businesswoman like you, Maia, most of us
I'm not remotely. No, our business practices exist so that I can continue to have my personality. Do you know? Because I am not the person who wants to have that confrontational, like, okay, guys, so we've now spent an hour in your kitchen, and this literally isn't included in the work that we're doing for you. So, first of all, on the occasional times when I do work on a fixed fee, it's only ever the concept and the design development phases. So coming up with the pretty in the preliminary budget, and then going out and picking the specifications and presenting them to the client for approval. And built into the text of each of those things is the deliverables the client has to provide us with. So if they tell me they've got the architect's drawings or whatever, they have to provide it to me in CAD, and we will not start working on your project until we receive that. So if you haven't provided that to me, that's fine. Asterisk. Site measurement services can be provided at an additional hourly rate. So if you don't meet my expectations in terms of what you have to give me to let me do my job, that costs you extra hourly. And then I build in how many revisions are allowed, and that all requests for the revisions must be submitted by the client at one point in time. And we will only start doing the revisions once you have provided all of those criteria and your thoughts. And that anything over and above those revisions, or anything, like halfway through where you say, oh, I've been thinking about maybe moving the sink to the other side, because what would it feel like if? That's hourly. And so it's all just spelled out in the contract. And I do it, and I literally read my contract line by line. We had this conversation a little while ago. It is all in there and it's all spelled out. But I will never do construction or project management of the execution phase at an hourly rate. At a fixed fee. It's always going to be hourly, because there is so much you cannot control during that period of time.
So I'm curious, because this is something that we have sort of battled with too. We charge a percentage for our implementation fee, but I'm finding we're always putting in more hours than we anticipate. I do personally hate charging hourly. I hate tracking it. I hate all of that. But,
so do I.
But anyhow, what was my question? I just lost my train of thought. How much project management are you overseeing? What is the expectation? Because I feel like we're struggling with this right now. I know we're getting a little outside of the budget conversation, but we're struggling a little bit with client's expectation that we are going to be on top of that contractor, he's our firstborn child, and we're going to be there almost on the daily. We're going to let them know daily. And it's oh my God, it's too impossible for us. And having just gone through my own home reno, I can tell you I've learned a lot about that client experience. And I realize that the client is living there, right? So it's if the trade doesn't show up at 8 a.m., well, I'm in the house and I know it, right? Because I've been living through the reno. And this really only applies to someone who's living through a renovation, not if they're not there. But, and I've realized there's that immediate knee-jerk reaction. And even from me, and I understand I'm more patient, that knee-jerk reaction of well, who screwed up? Why isn't this? And then I'm thinking in my head, if I were a client, the first person I'm thinking to blame or call is the designer. And so as a design firm, we're continually getting this from the client being oh, well, and you tell us the plumber wasn't going to show up, or all the things. And for us, it's almost an impossible situation to be in, because we're not the person who is actually hiring the trades. Haven't even actually hired the contractor, because our clients pay contractors directly. The money doesn't run.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that?
It's interesting. I feel I never build the expectation that we are in charge of the contractor. Like the contractor, I try frequently, first of all, I mean, I have some contractors that I just really like working with. I like how they communicate with clients. I like how they communicate with me. They don't decide that they've figured out the way that it should be solved. They call me and we have a chat. So I try exclusively to work with contractors who behave in a way where they're taking a huge amount of responsibility and they have a very good track record of communicating with clients. So also, I'm pleased to say we have moved away from those nightmare projects where the client is living in the house. And those are so hard. Oh, because they will text you at like 5:30, the delivery didn't come today. It's like, I know. I haven't had a chance to
yes, and that's what happens to us, my team. And then I get frustrated with my team, and they're like, honestly, like I've been doing 3 other things today. Like I'm not at their beck and call. Yeah. And that's where I think we lose money, is that we're spending so much time responding to clients needing things from us that have to do with the contractor and not with the materials that we're supplying even.
Yeah. So I think that it's key to have really good trade partnerships. People who you refer to projects, they refer projects to you because you just really like working together. Like I would rather wait and make money a little bit further down the line with the right person than jump in with somebody who I don't think is a good fit for the project. And I think there is a degree to which you have to trust your gut when you're meeting a contractor, where you're just like, I don't know that this person is going to be the world's greatest collaborator. And I've literally said to clients, I'm going to be honest. I don't get the vibe that this person loves working with designers. And there are contractors who are totally ready and love working with designers because they don't want to be the person who's in charge of making an aesthetic choice and then having the client be like, why? I will wear that choice any day of the week. But I need to be working with contractors who are ready to, stay up to date. They're the ones who are responsible for getting trades to site, making sure things are done on time. The schedule is theirs. Their responsibility is to let me know if there's product we're ordering, how soon they're going to need it so that we can get it to them. I mean, during COVID with all the lead time nightmares, that has become a whole other thing. Like, I'll try. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the trick is, and I know a lot of designers, because like in our Facebook group with my coaching students, it's a continual complaint or frustration point, pain point, that how do you find the contractors that are the right ones to align yourself with? I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I still have, I have contractors that I work with, but I couldn't tell you that there's like one contractor or one firm that I'm like, yep, beautiful, easy to work with every time. I still haven't found that. And I've worked with lots of projects and with lots of contractors. It's not easy to find. And that's a frustrating part.
And they're in high demand.
And they're in high demand, especially right now, at least in Toronto. There's a booming construction industry, remodeling, like new builds. But it makes me as a designer not want to oversee that implementation. Like that's how difficult it can be.
So do you, when I, pre-COVID, so many things are pre-COVID, but I had like a spreadsheet of people who I was busy setting up networking meetings with. And it included architects, real estate agents, and general contractors, and people who I wanted to set up a relationship with so that when the right project came along, I was queued up and ready to partner with those people. And so I would go out and have, look and feel, just sort of like have a coffee and chat about how I work, how they work, how we can back each other up. And I'm very transparent. I'm like, listen, this is how I work. I will never throw you under the bus. I'm looking for collaborators. I'm looking for people who want a solid construction drawing package. I'm looking for people who will flag things where they don't know what's supposed to happen and need more clarification. I try to be as available to, I am so much more available to my trades than I am to my clients. I have a no texting policy with my clients. It's in our sort of preliminary intake docs. And But I do not have that with my contractors, because I know that they're not going to text me at 4 a.m. because they're worried about how they feel about the wallpaper. But they're going to text me at 7:30 in the morning saying that Tyler's coming and he mentioned he's got a couple of questions. I can keep him busy for this many hours. Do you have time today to either come by site or have like a video call and just chat through a couple of details with us? And I always want people to ask me for that. And I will always make myself available so that things can keep moving smoothly on site and that we all come out smelling like roses.
Totally. Yeah, totally. That's such a good point. I mean, it's all about setting that expectation early on and getting on the same page. I love that you were doing that networking thing. That's brilliant. I mean, probably people could still do that. It would just be more virtual right now.
It's more virtual. Yeah. But it's good to sort of like, I talk people through a process. I show them projects and like how I go from concept to design development. Like I give them a presentation the same way I do any kind of like incoming client or potential client. I take my contractors or my potential contractors through that whole same sales pitch about like, come work with me. I am here to create solid partnerships, and that has paid off. But it's not a long list. It's like I can count on one hand the people who I am ready to partner with on pretty much any project that they want to partner with me on. My prepositions got away with me there.
I like what you said there about how you want to be prepared. So for when that dream job comes, because what I have found in the past is like, I land this incredible job with this amazing client. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a contractor. Right. Yeah. And they're like, oh, part of why we want to work with you is like, you can oversee it and you've got great trades. And I'm like, shoot, like the one trade that could be good, like they are not available. And so it's like, do you wait? And then you scramble to find someone. So I think that is a really great tip, is like to be proactive, to connect with people when you don't have the work, so that when the work comes, you have options. I think that's such a good idea.
Yeah. My business coach, Kim Cutable, she was sort of, I've worked with her in a couple of different capacities. First as sort of like part of a group business coaching called the Mastermind, and then as a one-on-one client. And when we were working together in the Mastermind initially, she was saying, guys, if you are not busy enough, there is absolutely no reason for you not to be working 9 to 5. If you are not, if you don't have as many projects as you want on your plate, you sit your ass down in the morning and you work on getting that business in. And I mean, she's not a drill sergeant at all. She's very much into like the woo. She's like, part of the time that you're spending at that desk might be like making a Pinterest board about when you get the money, what is the money going towards? Like what's your vision? Because she's got this thing about like the money won't come if you don't know how you're going to use it, what it's for, like what's the plan?
All about that. You have to have a vision. You have to have a vision for the future.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
And tweak it because it will change.
Oh, if you have to be constantly adjusting. And that's the thing that I find the most frustrating, because it always feels like everything is on quicksand because you're always pivoting and adjusting. And
totally quicksand. Oh my God.
Yeah. But having like if you do not, if you're not getting the jobs that you want, the quality of jobs that you want, you go out and you make yourself a little spreadsheet. And I had cold calls. we were tracking follow-ups. We were tracking, and there are people where you try 3 or 4 times and you just get nowhere with them. And that's fine. Sage Real Estate just doesn't want to work with black sheep. Okay. I'll get over it. It's not personal. But put those contacts out there. And that's how we created a variety of trade relationships, is that you will start to find the kinds of trades who are like, oh gosh, yeah, that sounds great. I'm always looking for designers to suggest on projects, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like Brent Henderson at BHC Construction, he works a lot with Design Strom, which is a combo of 2 studios, and I'm going to butcher their names if I try to say it. But anyway, they got together and started this, and he seems to almost work exclusively with them at this point. But he and I have been like trying to find a project to work on together because I think our personalities are very compatible. But it's just got to, the gap in his schedule has to line up with the gap in my schedule, and you got to have the right client at the right time. So it's a romance that is a long-term
But you know what? That's also sales. So not maybe with the contractor as much, but it is still a little bit of sales. And I think that's a really good point.
Contractors bring me projects.
When you have, there you go. See? So
It's
when you
sales.
have that downtime, like, and this is one thing I think as creatives that we struggle to spend the time doing is sales. I know personally, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the cold calls. I don't enjoy the going out and trying to look for work. It's a lot easier when it just lands in your lap. But I think that's a really great takeaway is like when you have that time and if it's slow, like if anyone's listening now and they're a little bit, they don't have the projects they need, instead of spending time worrying about it. And yes, you want to spend some time upping your processes and working on your systems, but you also need to do the outreach. You also need like real estate agents, like think about like brainstorm who you can connect with. And it may not be, it's a long game, right? Like you say, it's a building a relationship. Long game. You're not going to like reach out to a real estate agent and they will immediately say, oh, I just sold someone a house. They need a designer. Maybe it'll happen, but that's not why you do it.
It may not pay off for 2 years. You have it blows my mind how many times, like, okay, so these clients with the Rosedale house, I've been working with them for 10 years. We have never done a project of this scope. We've done like spruce up the dining room. We took out but we took out a load-bearing wall in their living room to open up the main floor a little bit, but we really didn't do that much. Like we just repaired some paneling, patched the flooring, and not a sexy, certainly didn't photograph it for a portfolio or anything, but we have that ongoing relationships. You got to nurture the people who you work with well, and you never know what it's going to yield. I started a project, I think it's like 6 or 7 years ago, in Plater Estates, and I am still working with those clients. They send me at least 2 projects a year. They're very wealthy and they invest in property. Some of the projects we do with them are like buying lights, nice looking, but lights from Home Depot and Lowe's to spruce up a rental property. And I help them pick some paint colors and blah, 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 blah. But when you're slow, there's no shame in taking on projects like that. And meanwhile, I'm busy normally flying to Barbados to work on their big, beautiful vacation property there. So like, you never know. And not to say you should tie yourself to crappy non-money making projects. You should absolutely be making money when you're going to Lowe's and Home Depot and picking paint colors and stuff like that. But the little things, if you get along well with somebody, there is no harm in taking on smaller scale projects for people who you have a good ongoing relationship with, because sometimes it can really lead up to bigger things.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they could refer you to somebody who's like them, right?
I have clients who are serial referrers, like I've only done one project with them, but for 3 months, they send me a new friend who is embarking on a big project and they want me to, they're like, oh yeah, they loved our house. They thought, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like that's like a whole other topic that we don't have time to talk about.
Budget.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's the whole idea. It's just a conversation. I want to have you back on the podcast though, again, to exclusively talk about working in foreign countries, because that's something that I think is really fascinating. And it's a deeper topic than we have time for today, because you've been working in the Barbados and I think you have a lot of insight. So we're going to just shelf that.
Cool.
What I would like to end with is I just would love to hear a little bit more from you about your experience in the community, because you're very active in the design community. I mean, you're a very outgoing personality. Obviously, anyone who's just listening can tell that. But you're also giving back. I met you. Oh, I'm trying to think how I met. I think it was through that Eva's Home for Life.
Yes,
that's how I met you. Yeah. Do you want to just maybe talk a little bit about, your philanthropic or whatever it is that you do? You're not just working for free, but you do a lot to help the community. You want to just talk about the value in that?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, plug for Eva's. So Eva's Initiatives is a series of shelters and harm reduction programming. And the goal of Eva's is to eliminate homelessness in the youth population in the GTA. So I got conscripted. A friend of mine is on the board and has been for ages. And he and I are sort of each other's stand-in dates for events, like I've got a gala, because we always know the other person's going to dress appropriately, network well, like make us look good. Make sure there's always a beverage in our hand. If it's my event, he's always going to be the one who's like, I'm going to the bar. Does anyone need anything? And schmooze well. So like we always know that the other person's going to front well.
It's like a good friend to have. That's the dream party friend. Like, take care of me, make sure I have a drink, schmooze with me, and dress well.
Yeah, 20 years of practice.
Love it.
He's a gem. Anyway, so he took me as his date to an event where Eva's was being sort of feted for having raised money or something. I don't quite remember what it was, but I found myself, and I suspect it was very much a setup, but I found myself at a table full of the fundraising team for Eva's. And they said, "Oh, so you're an interior designer?" And I was like, "Someone has been prepped. I'm going to have to keep my friend under the table." And found out that they had this fundraiser called Home for Life, and that the idea is that it's an auction of home goods. And it was kind of like a really sad garage sale for charity when I got involved a few years ago. And over a series of years, we were able to build it up into this live auction featuring fabulous designers like Rebecca Hay, who would come in and do a vignette and style it up with goods that had been donated by their suppliers and were then available for purchase by the attendees. So that has been a ton of fun and a very interesting thing, and has been very much a catalyst for me meeting a lot of different designers, because my background is more on sort of the like Areto, NCIDQ community, and I didn't have a lot of contact with people who are more decoration, residential interior design. And so it's really helped me sort of shift in terms of who I just hang out with and come to with problems and questions and all that kind of stuff. Because there's a wealth of knowledge in the decoration side of things that I don't think gets respected sufficiently. Anyway, so that has led me to just be in contact with a lot of people. And then social media has also played a role in it. But what I've appreciated seeing is that and I've talked about this so many times, but the shift that I see where we're coming away from being in these isolated little firms where everyone is super territorial about their sources, about their trades, about their clients, and that nobody wants to share any information with each other. Nobody wants to support other firms. Like I think I said this on the fireside chat we had last week. Like, I used to work at a firm where before we would go to an industry event, the principal would be like, everyone remembers you're not allowed to like tell anybody who our trades are or who our suppliers are or where we got whatever we got on some project they might have seen. And I was just like, okay. I mean, are you in a silent Cold War with every other design firm in the city? Anyway, it's very much this lack mentality of there isn't enough work to go around. There aren't enough trades. There aren't enough suppliers. There aren't enough goods. And I think that is an absolutely atrocious way to do business. I think that it sets you up to have an ulcer. And I just think that there is so much more that we can do if we all support each other. So I was really drawn to, moving into the collective, and that has spurred on a lot of my more sort of community-minded opportunities and talks and chats. And someday we'll all see each other again in person. But I just think that I have a vision for what the design world can be, and it's not territorial designers off in their own little cocoons. I refer projects that aren't a good fit for us at this point in time, but I would have taken on happily 5 years ago when I was already 3 years in business and years before that working for other people, but I was still starting my firm, figuring out what our fit was. Mm-hmm. I would have loved people to be feeding me projects. And so I've got a friend. She and her new partner are both coming fresh off mat leave, having left their jobs to, have what they're expecting is going to be their last kid. And they want to start a firm. And so for smaller stuff that is appropriate for when you're just gearing up and getting ready and just isn't something that I'm interested in taking on at this point in time, or honestly, we don't have time right now to take on new projects, but, sending things their way. Why not? Who is that hurting?
It's goodwill, it's karma, I think. I agree. I also think the collective has been instrumental. And unfortunately now it's a bit different in the pandemic, but prior to lockdown, I mean, that was an opportunity where you and I would just occasionally bump into each other and we would like chat for 2 minutes. It wasn't like, hey, let's sit down and have an hour-long coffee, although we could have. But even just that, keeping that connection, I think those spaces, like I love the collective for that, that you can kind of bump into other designers. And then when the time comes and you need help with something, oh yeah, Maya said this thing about design docs with budgeting. Let's ask her about that. Or, hey, and then you like, oh, maybe Rebecca wants to speak at our, at our event or at the fireside chat, right? Because I'm top of mind because you've just seen me or what have you. So I think there's so much to be said for physically being in those spaces too. And I hope we can get back to it. But if we can't be physically in those spaces, virtually, Facebook groups, any kind of online community, showing up at these talks, like it's a great opportunity to chat with other designers. I think it's so, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, collaboration, not competition. That's my mantra.
Yeah, I have a very like rising tide lifts all boats. Like it may not be a project that's suitable for me. It may just be like something for 5 seconds that is helpful to you. Like I know somebody who is feeling overwhelmed and like doesn't have the team supporting them. And I know somebody who works predominantly in commercial, although she does some residential, and might love to step in as like basically, she runs her own firm. So she could step in at like a senior designer project lead level and just take some stuff off my friend's plate. So why would I not connect those two people?
Them. Yeah. Totally. Because then one time they'll connect you with someone, right? They'll say, hey, remember Maya was so helpful. Like it's just, what goes around comes around. So they say. Yeah.
But I think also, to the point of like, you never know what's going to come out of the conversations that you have, those long-term, connections and networking that you're doing. You never know what's going to happen because 6 months down the road, some weird opportunity may arise. I've got people who are like, oh, I know folks who have a place in Barbados. Maybe you should have a coffee with them and have a conversation about where the real estate market's going down there. That kind of stuff. Absolutely. Of course. But
basically watch out. If you're a designer in Barbados, you better watch your back because this girl's are coming. She's taking over the country.
I will not lie. If I can get us to the point where I'm 50% of the time in the Caribbean working on projects and 50% of the time in just like Muskoka and Collingwood working on the rest of the projects, I would be a very happy clam.
It sounds awful. Sounds so awful.
I know.
What, you don't want to be stuck in gray, gloomy Toronto?
So I was supposed to be literally flying to Barbados 2 days from now. So today's the 2nd. I was supposed to go down on Thursday, on the 4th.
Oh, that's right.
I haven't been down in a year. I normally go down like 4 times to check on construction and meet with trades and the mill worker and da-da-da-da. And I mean, now it's been pushed out another 90 days. And who knows what it's going to look like in 90 days from now. So I won't suggest that the jet setting design model works at all times.
True. Well, we will have to have you back to talk about how it works normally and actually how does it work during the pandemic? Because that's a whole new world.
Oh, yeah. There's many lessons learned during this period for sure.
Okay, so our time is up. Before we go, do you have any last little nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with my listeners?
Oh gosh.
Not to put you on the spot, but
no. Okay, I've got a couple. And I'll try to keep them brief because I know I ramble. One, even though you're not working on the kinds of projects that you really want to be working on, if you're at the point, I talk about it as the basement renovation phase. There was a solid 2 years where I swear to God, the only thing we did was help people excavate, lay out, and decorate basements. And I was like, I would love to see the sunlight again. So even if you're in whatever your particular version of that is, where you're just like, okay, I am rising, I am grinding every day. Don't be afraid to think about the things that you want eventually to be able to do, because you will be able to grow your business. And so those steps that you put in, blocking off periods of time in your calendar. My calendar, when my staff goes to look at it and they need to review a set of drawings with me, there are pockets of time in the week where they know they can sign themselves up. And I don't really want to talk to you on Friday afternoon because that's when I do my business networking. And I don't want to talk to you on Tuesday afternoon because that's when I do my accounting. So like I set aside chunks of time. And so that will allow you, that kind of structure will allow you to build in, who am I dealing with this week? Who am I dealing with next week? Also on the aspect of community, accountability is super helpful. So if you know that you want to level up your business by finding the right trades, by finding the right architects to feed stuff to you, by doing your media pitches, like build in those chunks of time and then have a partner, a friend who you went to design school with or worked at a firm with in the past, those kinds of things, and challenge each other. So this week I have to send out two intro emails and do follow-up from 2 intro emails I sent 2 weeks ago, right? Like there should be a process to it, and you structure it and you have that time in your schedule. And then you've got a buddy that you are talking with. So we did this in the mastermind group when we would have to I get the anxiety about cold calls and cold emails and what have you. I get it. What if they look at me and I'm not as shiny as they thought I would be? And it's so, I get it. I get all of that. But having a partner who pushes you, because literally the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no. And so you continue to not have a relationship with that person who you don't have a relationship now. Just move past it. But get a friend who you can check in with. If you don't have staff, my staff are the ones right now who are like, Maia, you have to review the invoices so that the invoices go out this month. Right. Okay, fine.
Tedious task.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But building in some structure and some accountability, I think is massively helpful. And then bear in mind where you want to be going with those little things that you're building into your business. Like if you don't have, procedures and processes set up, don't think that you have to wake up every single morning and work on that until it's done. Just work on it Wednesday mornings. And when you're done at noon, you're done for the week. And, and you'll just keep building things. But also make them achievable amounts of time. Otherwise you will burn out.
Oh my God, girl, you're speaking my language. I'm all about time blocking. You should see my calendar. I'm got chunks of time. My team sometimes says to me, they're like, well, Rebecca, you're just so busy. You never have allotted time to speak to us. I'm like, yes, you have Wednesdays. Plan it. I'm available to you on Wednesdays or whatever it is.
I moved our Monday morning meetings to Tuesday mornings and I love it. Because I always ended up feeling like I'd get in on Monday and I'd be like, I didn't spend Sunday organizing for the team meeting. So now I'm kind of just doing this off the cuff. And meanwhile, emails are coming in from people and they're shifting my priorities as I'm giving directions. I moved it to Tuesday and now I have Monday to absorb all that information and then figure it out for people.
Nice. Yeah, I think I think that's the idea of easing into your week. I've been trying to do more of that too, so that it doesn't feel like you're just playing catch up from the get-go.
Well, and it also means you can be on site on Mondays.
Right. Yeah.
When the trades want you there.
True. Oh my goodness. Okay. So many good nuggets of wisdom. So many good things. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you to follow all things Maia?
Absolutely. We have not been as phenomenal on our Insta during COVID as we probably could. For me, it's a mental health thing. Like when I'm having the dark, scary days, when I'm like, it'll never, nothing is going the way it's supposed to. And then you see these beautiful photos of other people's work. It's depressing. But we are Black Sheep ID on Insta. That's probably the best place to engage with us socially. blacksheepinteriordesign.com on the web. And you can also sign up for our newsletter. I am coming back into sending out monthly newsletters, trying to just sort of keep people updated and aware of what we're up to.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, lady. That was such a treat.
Yeah. Lovely to get to see you.
Almost in person.
Oh, no, almost. So close.
Whew, wow. Isn't Maia awesome? I wish I was more like that. I wish I was more like, this is the way it is. This is why we do it. I'm like, yep, I'll follow you. I'll do whatever you're doing. She's the black sheep. I guess that's why her business is named that. Anyhow, that was fantastic. I hope you guys got a lot out of that. I love that she just kind of snuck it in at the end, but the idea behind time blocking, which I already love, but I like that she sets aside chunks and that she's constantly revisiting those chunks. And I think this is something that often we forget when we go to set our calendar. We create our ideal week and we block it out perhaps in Google Calendar and we say, okay, Monday mornings is this thing, Tuesday afternoons, Wednesdays are for design and drawings, whatever it might be. But to give yourself that leeway and know that it can change. So maybe like she said, she used to do her, team status meeting on Monday and realized like she didn't actually have time to prepare for the meeting. So then decided to move it to Tuesdays. Or at one point, she said she maybe said this after we turned off the record button. So she said that she used to do accounting on Friday afternoons. Well, shoot. Who has the mental capacity to sit down and stare at numbers on a Friday afternoon? So she's rejigged things. So I think that is a really great reminder just to give yourself some grace when you are planning out your calendar. Anyways, guys, if you liked this episode, give it a screenshot, share it on social media. Definitely follow me at Rebecca Hay Designs. If you haven't already downloaded our free discovery call script, it's the first step in onboarding clients and setting up a process in your business. You can get it at RebeccaHay.com/discovery. It is the script that I use with the questions I ask to potential clients to help get me closer to that dream client. Anyhow, we will put that in the show notes as well. That's it. I will see you soon.